I talk about my talent for cooking because the way people know how to sing is kind of how I know how to cook. Like these ideas just come to mind and then I put them into practice. Now, for the jollof rice recipe, and a lot of people probably wonder like, why did you combine our three innovations, which is the Baci jollof, the asun paste, and the pepper chicken paste. Like, I'm very unconventional when it comes to recipes, especially because I'm very big on our local recipes and our local flavors, and I feel like that's why Gino and I match so nicely. But yeah, so it was, I had been able to now figure out from trials and errors what my major issues were with making jollof rice, and I had now established an amazing jollof rice that led me on to winning, the jollof face-off between Nigeria and, another country. And, and moving on from there, when I started selling food, there were so many things. Everyone is always coming up with something new, and you want to provide your consumers with something delicious and something different, and just on a random day, quite frankly, I was like, I had goat's meat and I was making jollof rice, and the thought just came to me like, what if I, fried my base with goat head to infuse the goat flavor inside the jollof rice, and I made it and I sent it to a client, and they really, really, really liked it, and that's what gave birth to the asun jollof rice that I started selling, right? And I remember when Gino and I, met, when they were cutting me, there were so many agreements that we had, and I told them, I was like, I remember having this conversation with Vincent, and I was like, there's so many things, though, like, I want cubes, I want paste, I want this, and they're like, you're in the right place, but there are things that we've been working on, you're going to be so happy with what we've put together so far. And I remember in January when I think they sent me a few samples for the cubes and the asun paste, and I'm like, yeah, this is it. Like, this is actually, like, I combined all three because pepper chicken had already been launched the year before, and like Baci jollof was already there. I'm like, let me combine all three and see what we get. And when I made it, I texted her. I'm like, see, this is all you need to make your jollof cake. So when the idea to make the largest pot of jollof rice came, honestly, I figured that this recipe has been a bestseller in my restaurant. This recipe has probably bought me quite a number of nice things, and I think Nigerians need to get a feel of it. And the beautiful thing is, before now, I would have to go through so many steps to get there. But because of these new innovations, it has cut down my prep time by half, which is why I'm constantly pushing it. As someone say, oh, she's marketing because she's their brand ambassador, I promise you, a trial will convince you. It is next level. I'm going to publish the recipe for you to do soon.
I'll start by saying thank you to each and every one of you for being here. This means a lot to me and it means a lot to us. And to answer that question, there are so many layers. I mean, when the announcement was officially made, like when it was finally official that we had this record, or we had set this record, it just felt more like a dream come true, because there were so many conversations. Ori and I started this conversation since 2024, I think July 2024, and our very first meeting was in January this year. So imagine talking about one thing for 9 months, and as time goes on, as the conversations progress, you discover new things, you realize new hurdles that you need to cross. And I remember I was having a conversation and asking ourselves, like, what's the first thing we're going to do when, the record is announced, like when we get it officially. And it just felt like answered prayers. I might sound very religious, but that's the truth, because I think through this whole time we held on to God, and we could not have done this. But there's so many miracles that we experienced in the time of having done this attempt. So it felt like answered prayers. It felt like, I always say I'm working in line with God's purpose for my life. So it's more like, if you need any confirmation at the time that you were doing the right thing, that also felt like very, very strong confirmation that I was doing the right thing. And I always say my mom is like the most supportive mom. And I look at my mom and
there's so many things in her that I see in myself. And I just feel like she's been so supportive. She's always there. She was ready to come a month before the event to just cheer me on, help me out in any possible way. And I feel like when you have that support and you have that love at home, it solves like half of your problem. So yeah, I owe a lot of who I am and what I've been able to achieve so far to my mom.
All right.
That's it.
Okay.